we bring you a story that starkly illustrates the devastating human cost of conflict in Gaza. For many of us, the sight of this familiar red and yellow packet of Parle-G biscuit, it evokes warm memories of childhood. A simple, affordable treat found in nearly every Indian home. In India, this small packet might cost you just 10 rupees. There are packets that cost you 5 rupees or even less. But now imagine that this same packet, which is a basic sustenance, becomes a luxury item costing thousands of rupees. That's the unimaginable reality that is unfolding in Gaza, where a single packet of Parle-G is reportedly being sold for an astronomical 2,400 rupees there. This isn't just about this biscuit. It's about the erosion of dignity, the desperation of hunger, and the shocking reality of basic food items becoming utterly unattainable. Take a look at this report by Samiran Mishra and Ridhima Kedia, which sheds a vital light on this humanitarian catastrophe.
Parle-G, for millions of Indians, it's more than a biscuit. It's childhood. It's comfort. It's the ₹5 snack you dip into chai on rainy days. But in Gaza, a place gripped by famine, the same biscuit pack is now being sold at nearly 500 times their original price. A single packet costs 2,400 rupees. After the 2023 escalation, Gaza's lifeline, food, was choked. Border closures, aid blockades, rising desperation. A new system, the Secure Distribution Site 1, also known as the SDS-1 model, replaced UN food routes. But what it brought was not relief. It was queues behind barbed wires and hunger priced out of reach. In a post that has taken the internet by storm, Mohammed Jawad, a local Palestinian, wrote, and I quote, "After a long wait, I finally got Rafif her favorite biscuits from 1.5 pound to over 24 pounds. I just couldn't say no," unquote. Because when war steals normalcy, even a biscuit becomes a promise kept. For Mohammed, it wasn't about price, it was about Rafif's smile. And in times like these, that smile is worth everything. Dr. Khalid Al-Shawwa, a Gaza surgeon, told NDTV that the problem isn't with the original suppliers or taxation. These goods usually enter Gaza as humanitarian aid, free of charge. Scarcity turns them into high-priced black market goods. He managed a pack for ₹240. Different locations, different prices, depending on who the seller is. Interestingly, these Parle-G packets with export pack labels do not mention any price whatsoever. In response to this, Israel official has claimed, and I quote, "This is why free humanitarian aid directly to the people of Gaza is so important, because over 80% of products in all previous aid attempts were looted by Hamas and resold to the Gazans for an outrageous price." The steep pricing is not limited to Parle-G, which is an export from a country located roughly 4,300 kilometers away. This is not a supply chain failure. This is a fight for survival, dictated by scarcity, corruption, and conflict. It's not just Parle-G that costs too much in Gaza. It's the human cost of every meal, priced not in rupees or shekels, but in the pain of waiting, the despair of empty shelves, and the hunger that doesn't end. With Samiran Mishra and Ridhima Kedia, Bureau Report for NDTV World.
In fact, I'm joined by my colleague Ridhima Kedia. Ridhima, Samiran Mishra has done this report with you. Firstly, take us through the numbers that we are talking about. What has been the Israel's response, and also what does this mean in the larger context?
Right. So, Osama, let me just start this from the scratch and tell you that the 5 rupees snack that is very cheap in India, you will find it in every household, has become a distant dream in Gaza. in a country which is 4,300 kilometers away, food scarcity has has turned into an acute famine. Now you see the same biscuit that costs us 5 rupees, costs there is it is being sold at rupees 2,400, which is 500 times its original price. There were viral posts on Twitter. A local Palestinian, Mohammed Javed, had tweeted and put out a very emotional post with his child, Rafif. And he was saying that after a very, very long time, he could finally get his girl that one packet of biscuit that was worth the price. So you imagine how disastrous is the situation. We at NDTV, our colleagues, Samiran Mishra, who's on top of this report, got in touch with Dr. Khalid. He's a surgeon, he's a Gaza surgeon who actually, he actually stepped out of his house and got into the markets to buy that packet of biscuit. And he got that for rupees 240. Can you believe that? So different locations, different prices, and it just doesn't end. Scarcity has turned into high price black market in Gaza. That is what it is, Osama. Now the Israeli side, we also got in touch to get their side of the story. So Israeli officers say that this is Hamas. Hamas we are talking about. Hamas is the political and militant group in Gaza. So according to Israel, they loot these aid, weaponize them, and then sell it for a higher price.
And then resell it for to the people of Gaza.
You see, it's not just about that Parle-G packet, Osama. It's about sugar, oil, onions. They're all
many
above and
Absolutely
between 1,000 rupees to 4,000 rupees. And as you said, this is not about the cost of Parle-G packet. It's about the desperation.
True, absolutely. In fact, the suffering of the people in Gaza, it goes far beyond the statistics and the political analysis. We'll try and make sense of what is happening there. I'm currently joined by Mr. James Bowden, a Middle East expert. I also have Professor Kinberaj Jangid. He's the adjunct faculty, Ben Gurion University. Also Director Center for Israel Studies, OP Jindal Global. Gentlemen, welcome to NDTV. Let me start by asking you, Professor Jangid, the fact that a simple biscuit packet, it costs thousands of rupees. It speaks to an unimaginable level of deprivation there. How do you assess the psychological and emotional toll this level of scarcity and the inability to provide for one's family it takes on the individuals, especially the parents in Gaza?
Well, this is really unspeakable pain. I mean, to say as an outsider, we can really feel part of it. I just traveled to Israel 3 days back. I saw one of the biggest protest march from Tel Aviv to the border of Gaza. The Israelis who are fighting against the government and the maximalists who are fighting and continuing the war in Gaza. I suppose what's happening in Gaza is a crisis that the whole international diplomacy, the world, is helpless about. This is really the saddest reality of the world after World War II. A famine or a drought or a natural calamity is aside, but what's happening in Gaza is simply unforgettable at the moment. So yes, it breaks the heart and it's extremely painful. And there are multiple actors responsible for it. So it's a compound situation of international failure, regional actors, wasted powers, as well as the ideologically, ingrained players like Hamas, as well as the maximalist leaders in Israel.
I also want to understand, before I go to James Bowden, Professor Jangid, children, they are often the first and the most severely impacted by food insecurity. And this is, again, one of the most devastating part of any conflict, isn't it?
It is, and I think it's a great amount of helplessness. Just think of it. Your two very distinct colleagues compiled this report, but Gaza is really shut for the international media.
Yeah.
So what you could gather is actually a phone call and a few bites and collections from here. So actually, we might not know the devastation that's happening in Gaza to an extent. What we know is actually just a bit of it. It really worries. It really worries what's happening there.
True. James Bowden, how effective do you think that the current model of aid distribution is in reaching the most vulnerable population in Gaza?
Oh, it's greatly ineffective. And a lot of what aid is getting in is not going to be suitable for appropriate nutrition. So there's malnutrition and there's just basic bog standard attempts to get proper protein bases. A lot of the aid is flour based and high carbohydrate. And it's really up to the Israelis to open up the channels of aid. They continually blame Hamas for everything, but they are very substantially to blame for the current crisis.
How do you think the involvement of the IDF in aid distribution affects the perception of aid among the local population? That is something that I also want to understand from you.
I think it makes it much more difficult. It makes them much more frightened and reluctant to go to these aid stations. I mean, they are risking their life. You've got trigger-happy soldiers. We saw in the West Bank just a few weeks ago that dignitaries who had been on an approved path were shot at, and they were well marked, they were well dressed, there was a lot of press with them, and they were shot at. And so if you're a civilian and you're going to get aid and you're desperate and you're trying to get it, it could cause you to get shot even faster and with less restraint. And that's one of the key drawbacks of the IDF involvement. There needs to be guards. There do need to be guards. There need to be people who can protect the food, because Hamas and other groups and private individuals, bad actors, will get at it. But to have the IDF itself distributing it, I think, has always been a very bad idea.
Right, gentlemen, we are running short of time, but the Gazans, they are the ones who are actually running short of time, out of time. What should be the role of international communities? How can the governments alleviate this immediate human suffering and restore a sense of dignity and hope to the people of Gaza? That is something that we still need to ponder on. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being a part of this discussion.